Men are trying to impress other men, and this has always happened, right? Let's say we're hunter gatherers. I'd have a bigger stick than you,
Hmm.
and I'd be from a different tribe. You go, that's a fucking good stick. You'd wait until you get back to your tribe and go, do you see the size of James's stick? And then I'd be like, come round mine to my cave. Why? Because my cave's the big cave. Like some men have been in this, Jordan Peterson dominance hierarchy, whatever. So men like to tear other men down.
Long ways in. Congratulations on your visa and everything, by the way. Life's pretty different for you now from when we last spoke. I think it was probably going back almost 3 years ago or something. So a lot has changed for you since then.
I guarantee I would have said to you in our last podcast, oh, I just want to get my PR, get a dog, and go swim in the sea every day. So that's pretty much what I've done. I mean, it's a bit grey today. Anyone on YouTube, don't let them dictate that. But yeah, mate, it's a great life here. It's very simple. It's quite a lot different to the UK. But yeah, I'm just enjoying it.
Yeah, maybe grey, but I'm currently in South Wales and it's tipping down with rain. So there's always that.
How was your Christmas and New Year's? And what you got on for New Year's?
Quiet. I'm not really I'm not really a sort of party guy or anything like that. So just a quiet one.
Do you know what? The last couple of years, so you maybe got a few years till this happens, probably 32, 33, I'm becoming and loving being unsociable. Like having a dog is the cheat code to not having to be sociable. People are like, oh, do you want to do this Saturday? I'm like, oh, I've got a dog. And mate, that's it. New Year's Eve, I'm gonna sit on this balcony. I might have a Negroni and a cigar, and that's it. I don't want to see anyone. I don't want to do anything. I just want to make sure the dog's all right with the fireworks, and that's it.
That's a way to live, man. So I think a good place to start would be, I just mentioned there, I think I first had you on this show at the start of 2020. I think it was when you brought out your first book, or you were still in the promotion for your first book. You've written another two since then. They're both bestsellers. You've been on these sold out tours across the UK and Dubai and Australia. You've been on some massive podcasts since. A lot has changed for you from looking from the outside in, but what has changed about James Smith? What do you notice about yourself now that is completely changed from the you I spoke to 3 years ago, if anything?
Do you know what? We're definitely one thing that I definitely like to say to people is we're not really ever a fixed person. We're always a continually morphing, evolving person. I think that I might have been naive to that when I was younger, that how much I could change in a few years. Actually, at the end of my second book, something called The End of History Illusion, where people seem to think the amount of change that can occur in their lives has only occurred up to the very point they're living in now, and that any point beyond that, they're going to be the same, just older. So my values have definitely changed. I still stand with, my original principles, calorie deficit, resistance training, all of these things. But I would say I'm definitely slowing down a bit in a good way. I'm starting to prioritize my training a lot more, starting to prioritize my energy a lot more because, and I hate to say this in a depressing way, between 28 and 33, in 5 years, you have to become a lot more protective of your energy. I've never had any issues with my mental health because I've always been protective of it. I've always had these very firm boundaries of what I will and won't be willing to do. But as far as energy now, even the idea of having a couple of beers, before my motto used to be like, oh, life is boring without a gin and tonic, but I'll have to concede on that a bit. If I was to go for dinner and someone's like, oh, do you want to have a gin and tonic? I'll be like, no, probably not. Because even if that negates my sleep by 20%, I don't want to impact tomorrow's training. And when we spoke before, I would have been a blue belt. I'm now a purple belt. I compete a bit more. I take jiu-jitsu a lot more seriously. Where I would have been very much at the bottom of as far as pond sizes, I would have been at the bottom of the feed-in pool before. I've climbed a lot higher than that and now teach a little bit as well. So as far as my life, I've slowed down a bit, got the dog, don't go out as much, don't go drinking as much. Without being a wanker, the last 3 flights I've done first class, I haven't touched a sip of alcohol. And when I first used to do it, mate, I used to get smashed. I used to get wasted, and I was like, I'm wasting my money if I don't do it. But now my energy when I arrive at the destination is more important to me than having a pissed up time on a plane.
One thing from the outside looking in that I would say has maybe changed a bit about you, and feel free to disagree, but you seem to be a lot more, not that you weren't opinionated in the past, but you don't shy away from giving your opinion on topics that aren't sort of fitness related. I think if you go back to the launch of your first book, you were very, focused in on that niche, and you were giving value in that area. But now you seem to, not shy away from a lot of people in your position who've acquired a serious amount of social clout and following. They seem to sort of drop in and conform to these certain rules to sort of protect that. But you don't seem to shy away on Twitter, on Instagram from giving your opinion on topics that may cost you, followers who have disagree in certain areas. Would you say you've become a lot more opinionated, or do you just sort of care less about what people think?
I think I'm very much exhausted fitness chat. All right. So I've been in this for 9 years. So I'd probably say 7 solid years of just chatting about fitness stuff. And to be honest, people told me this would happen before it happened. I'm bored to death of debating people about low carb. And you know what? I think people are bored to death of fucking talking about fitness stuff. January's coming. I'm excited for that because maybe there's a 1 month window that people give a fuck about fitness chat and nutrition chat. If you look at all the biggest trending videos on YouTube, it's talking about masculinity. It's talking about, steroids. It's talking about this incoming war between men and women and between left and right and between racial issues and all of this. Like, that's not fitness isn't the topic. No one's coming in and going, fucking hell, we need to change legislations in the state that I live in because of the way that we look at carbohydrates, So there's definitely that. As far as not giving a fuck, I think one thing that I've noticed across probably the last 3-4 years, as far as an online personal training standpoint, I probably have the same 5,000 people that some leave, some go, but there's about 5,000 people there that are truly very reliable. They're very, the products that I have as far as like my academy, people love the service, the product, and they stay through it. We don't actually have that many new people as you might expect. We do get some, but people love that product. And it's something that probably I could market better, probably would need to publicize a bit more. So we have that. Then when it comes to selling books, the first book, let's say you've got maybe 100,000 people, maybe 150,000 people that love your book. So when you're looking at 3.5 million people across socials that I've now got, which is tremendously, probably tenfold what when we last spoke, there's still only a small collective of people that support my life, because I don't do paid posts, don't do brand deals or anything like that. So 5,000 people that do online PT with me, let's say 150,000 people that buy a book on the week that it comes out. Who am I really upsetting when I say these things? Is it those people, or is it the people on the fringes? Is it the people that go, and I spot this a lot and I love it, where people will tweet you passively aggressively saying, if you don't change your standpoint, I'm going to unfollow you. So what they're saying is, if you want my mark of approval, you need to change who you are. And I love getting those people to fuck off, because I don't want them infiltrating my close knit group of people that actually support me. They'll be like a plague, be like, COVID getting in and spreading around. So it's not like I don't care. I'm actually just more interested. Imagine this. If me and you are at a pub in Sydney, let's say you go, oh, James, I'm coming out to Oz for a bit. If we get to a pub and you go, James, I had a question about fat loss. I'll tell you to shut the fuck up. I'll be like, let's have a beer, right? This is my one beer of the month where I'm actually going to get a bit pissed. Can we not fucking talk about fitness? And then you'd go, gender pay gap, let's get into it. And I go, grab another beer. Let's get into this. You know what I mean? So it's more like that than anything else.
Yeah, no, I found that we found that with the podcast, especially, and how the content that people consume is a lot different now than it was 3-4 years ago. It seems like, your traditional personal development, your traditional self-help, it doesn't seem to have the same sort of gravitas that it used to. You think, you're trying to tell, someone's talking about the perfect morning routine. Well, there's bigger things to worry about at the moment. There's wars going on. There's, bad politics in the country. There's a lot more to concern yourself with. And people don't seem to be as interested in those topics. And one thing I found myself in certain positions where I've moved sort of the goalposts in terms of the content I try and produce and the people that I talk to. and I started talking to more people from the sort of political sphere. So Brett Weinstein, I've now have a good friendship with. You know, I've talked to people like that, and you start having different conversations, and you start noticing that you can get into this game of producing content that you know is going to drive viewership and drive the revenue. And you know, there's certain interviews and clips that I've never released, that I was close to releasing, that I knew if I released them, I'd get a lot of you know, a good reception for a lot of views, a lot of maybe revenue. But I was sort of going down that bad path of maybe talking about stuff that I didn't really care about, that I knew was going to generate a lot of interest. And I sort of had that sort of war in my head with myself about the content I should and shouldn't be producing. I don't know if you've ever struggled with this, but how do you battle with that? Because I'm sure there's certain topics that you could speak about, post about on YouTube, and you know people would flock to, but deep down you really don't care about that.
You know, I probably wouldn't enjoy sitting in front of a camera talking about things I didn't enjoy, but I do definitely respect that algorithmically there are waves that come in. It's like I'm out at sea, I can see a set of waves coming in. Am I going to ride it, or am I going to watch someone else ride it? So one of the Liver King thing, when Derek More Plates More Dates did the Liver King video, I was like, I went home straight away. I was like, I'm in Australia, the time zone's different. I'm going to watch his video and I'm going to credit him, but I post links to his video, but I'm assimilate it into 4 minutes. And it's the most YouTube views I've ever had, you know, in any clip that I've ever done. And so there was that. And am I passionate about Liver King? Not really. But now I appreciate that was a talking point. I think 51% of my hits came from SEO, where people were searching for Derek's video, but then saw mine was shorter. So there are things like that. Twitter, to me, is a fucking cesspit. And you know what? I will say this. Twitter has become so much better in the last couple of months since Elon Musk took it over. As an app, as a platform, do you use it much?
Yeah, I definitely do.
And mate, it like I now go to Twitter before I go to Instagram. So I'm really enjoying Twitter. But at the same time, if my Twitter was deleted tomorrow, I wouldn't care much. Because as far as the emotions it brings me news and, you know, some interesting things. Oh, did you know that this has just happened? Or, you know, whatever. But at the same time, it's a cesspit where anyone in the world with a shitty opinion can reach you and, you know, tweet you, and you'd be a liar if you said that a tweet couldn't take your focus off thought for 10, 15 minutes. They could say something or whatever. And because whenever you read something, you always think there's an element of truth to it. You always go, oh, that's true. And then you try and disprove it in your mind. You try and break it down as to why it's not true. And you're like, look at this fucking person without a profile picture that's it got 1 follower and they've been here since 2009 or whatever. Or like, but Twitter's a bit of a cesspit. But now I just sometimes look to just throw something out there. Then when I'm getting DMs from famous people as well, from things that go viral, it genuinely gives me anxiety.
Yeah.
I'm like, why the fuck is this person messaging me? He won't mind me saying it. Gary Vaynerchuk DM'd me the other day. And I couldn't open it. I couldn't open it for like half an hour. I messaged my manager. I go, why is Gary V messaging me? He goes, you got the fucking message. And I was like, I've read this guy's book. I only have a business Instagram because of this guy.
Yeah.
And I was like, what the fuck did I put out there that he's messaged me? So yeah, I would say there's times I'm intentionally provocative for, you know, there is probably a Machiavellian element to that where I am doing it for personal gain. But the other times I'd say I'm probably just a bit bored and I want to have a general discussion. I'll tell you what, there was another one recently where Qatar World Cup, I got it wrong, and I'm happy to say that. I thought that people were speaking about just the nature that certain elements of sexuality were haram in Muslim countries. I've got Muslim friends. I've been in Dubai recently where I had these discussions with them. And I thought people were like, you know, trying to put LGBTQ in the faces of people where it's against their culture. I didn't realize there were actual proactive things that were going on against, you know, gays or whoever in Qatar. So I tweeted being like, hey guys, you could probably respect the culture out there. Then everyone came back and a few people messaged me, do you not know what they're doing? And then I was like, fuck, no, I didn't know what they were doing. And then I put out another tweet and I'm like, hey guys, I was wrong on that point. But I'm still kind of grateful that I said what I was thinking. I, in some respects, had my ignorance curbed and then it straightened me out on another path. I think the biggest disservice people can do is to say nothing because they're afraid of criticism, because then your ignorance remains.
Yeah, and it's it's prevalent because there's certain things that I haven't talked about, but I've had guests talk about on this channel, and I've had maybe 1 or 2 strikes for it that I've had to take down.
Up.
Yeah.
Really?
Well, it was crazy. I spent ages editing. I interviewed David Icke. I don't know if you know who David Icke is, but it was a crazy conversation, and it was me and him arguing back and forth most of it. But no one will ever see it. So we were just challenging each other, and I thought, I want to get this out. So I tried to edit it and cut out any words that I think were going to get a strike. And I thought, right, this is definitely going to get passed. And I put a clip out of him. I checked it 3-4 times. I had my best friend check it a couple of times before I upload it. So it is becoming quite a scary place to have free speech. But is that a good example of why you think that Elon Musk is having such a positive impact in the Twitter space? Because free speech is at the forefront of his mission.
Yeah, but even free speech, I think, is such a subjective thing. Let's think of it this way: people are censoring one side of an argument. That's how echo chambers begin, and often the people that are censoring are the woke people with purple hair that are trying to be anti-establishment, who they're like, oh my god, you can't say that, and they try and cancel you. And it's funny that the woke are the first to point the fingers at calling everyone else fascists, when actually their way of screaming people down in lecture halls actually represents real fascism. Like, so that I don't agree with, because let's look at it this way: Andrew Tate being cancelled was such a hot topic, but what it needed was debate. And what it needed was, think of it this way: I've assimilated millions of followers by finding people chatting shit and calling them out on their misinformation. Should you think Andrew Tate or anyone in that similar position is spouting misinformation, why not download the video, stitch it, correct it, inform people, educate people? You could build a mass of your own followers. You could actually drown him out should your point be more poignant or relevant than his. And his was a prime example where not many people saw this. Well, actually no, millions of people did, but the faith behind social media companies was totally eroded by that. Everyone thought YouTube is no longer a place to post videos. It's a place to post videos that are in line with exactly what YouTube want. And you probably know this. When you upload your videos, have you noticed that now the C word has been put in with some of the most vulgar, offensive words you could ever say as a human? So now if you use the C word in a video, you've pretty much got to categorize your video, as far as AdSense, as saying some words that you would never, ever, ever say live on streams.
Yeah.
So I'm like, where did that come from? Someone out there is so offended by the fucking C word that they've gone, guys, I think we need to update YouTube's policy. We need to keep people safe. And if you're going to use the C word, then suddenly I think we should categorize that with what word? The worst words. The C word, I'm going to say that so you don't have to tick this in case you want to monetize it. Yeah, no worries. First came from a street name in the 13th century called Grope Lane. And Grope Lane was a prostitution area in the 13th. If you go to 13th century linguistic journals, you'll actually see that was the word used for anatomy. So we've got a word that's been taken from anatomy over the course of nearly 1,000 years that now has caused people such upset that they've now put that in there. But that's, I guarantee, a bunch of little woke fuckers in a little room somewhere, and the HQ of YouTube, wherever it is, going, guys, no, we should not let people use this word. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, So Elon's takeover is great because he reinstated Trump, he reinstated Tate. Tate definitely did get a learning curve from being cancelled. And what's interesting now is he generated so much attention because it is an attention economy. Whoever can draw the most attention online is going to win the battle. He got cancelled for pushing it a bit too far. And they took some old clips, they took it out of context. Also, when you're preaching a message on social media, but it doesn't impact your bank balance, it's very easy to overstep the mark. You know what I mean? Imagine me and you are here, and no matter what, we've got 50 other businesses that are going to make us millions at the end of the year. We probably don't care that much about getting cancelled. So I actually think he did say some things that he probably didn't mean. But now that Twitter have reinstated him, he's brought that message back. He's converted to Islam, and he's actually found a very interesting balance between provocateur and role model. And he's actually storming through a path where for nearly a few months now, he's not done anything cancelable. Piers Morgan interviews. Have you seen how they've gone?
Yeah.
First one, he's getting shouted at. Second one, he's making solid points. Third one, he did online. Fourth one, he flew on a private jet back to London to play Piers Morgan in chess.
Yeah.
It's very interesting how everything's turning out with Andrew Tate, isn't it?
You've actually sat down around a table and had a conversation with him. What was your experience like meeting him in person? And did it surprise you, or did you go in with any sort of preset ideas on what you were expecting from him?
I knew from the off that he's a very intelligent guy. Tell you that straight from the off. So the first thing I could tell is just the way he can form a verbal argument. People hate to say it, but he's probably in the top 5 verbal competent people, up there with the likes of, let's say Jordan Peterson. How much is off the cuff? We don't know. We don't know. Perspicacity. So you've got a very verbal, competent person. Second of all, I'd seen that him and his brother have been on TV for the best part of 10 years. And you should never, ever discredit someone that's been in a hustle for 10 years. Like, off the top of my head, who else do I know that's been in this game 10 years? Probably Rogan. That's the only person I really know that's got 10 years plus of like really going at it. Then the kind of brotherhood with his brother, like that is very strong. So before I've even judged him on anything he said, the way he is with his brother, the loyalty to that. Then his father, I know, is ex-military and chess. Now, bums don't play chess. Bums don't get their kids to play chess. So I know there's intelligence. I know there's long-sighted kind of logic, and I know there's strong family bonds. So I knew straight from the off, this guy's too intelligent to be an idiot, if that makes sense. And I said on another podcast, just before or just when he got cancelled, he had the perfect opportunity, because I've been watching this and people think I'm probably trying to simp him off. I'm not. I'm fascinated from a marketing standpoint. I'm someone who has a very, very comfortable life from using social media as a tool to reach people. So when you see someone do it better than it's ever been done in history, you pay attention to that. And if you don't pay attention to that, you're a fucking idiot. So I'm watching him very closely. I'm tuning into some of his interviews. When he did the Nelk Boys podcast in Croatia, that's when he had to turn a corner and show his true colors a bit more. But he kept up the bravado because the misogynistic thing was gaining him too much popularity, even though it was bad press. To me, and I'll say this to his face, he should have turned the corner then, but he didn't. He waited until he got cancelled. So I met him in Dubai and we spoke for about half an hour before the podcast. And he's a really nice guy. And people are going to hate to say that. They're going to hate to hear that. We stood in a pretty busy gym and we tried to chat, and just not really about anything business, about this, about that, about events. He'd obviously done his homework on me, or he'd had people do homework on me, which again, when you're having a conversation with one of the most famous people in the world and he's taken 5-10 minutes out of his day to know who you are, what you've done. We even had a bit of banter about the fact that I put a bald cap on pretending to be him on social media, Bugatti. And then we go into the room, we sit down, the cameras go on, and you know exactly at that point, he switches it. Boom. He's Andrew Tate. And he has all the points, all the things he wants to say. And he does it very, very well, very precisely. I was actually impressed by the energy he brought for 2.5 hours. And I was like, where's this coming from? I was actually, not the things he was saying so much, the way he said it, the kind of the energy, the vigor, all of these things. I was like, Jesus Christ. I was like, I think you forget how many podcasts he's done, how long he's been doing this, how long he's been opinionated. There are videos of him saying things very similar to what he's saying now on old camera phones from probably 7 years ago. And he's a nice guy. And then some of the things he said in the podcast, I was like, oh, I'm not being associated with that. But yeah, if anyone was ever going to meet him or hang out with him, he's not the person you see on social media. And again, I've probably been guilty of this. I've chatted shit about people I've not met, where in reality, we should probably hold our reservations till we've had a bit of FaceTime with people.
When we spoke back in 2020, I told you a story of when I was in university. I went to Body Power in Birmingham, and I was quite naive to the ways of the sort of bodybuilding world. And I remember at the time telling myself my goal physique, and I believed at the time it was attainable, was Steve Cook. And I went to Body Power. I met Steve Cook, and I remember I had a photo with him. And I came away from the booth and I was looking at it and I thought, this is definitely not attainable. We are miles and miles and miles apart. Like, no matter if I trained like him every day, I'm never going to look like that. And I remember I was on my way out of the booth, and the company that sponsored it, they gave me a can of BCAAs on my way out. And I remember looking at it for a split second and thinking, is this it? Is this the difference between me and Steve Cook if I start drinking? So I came away and, I was with this can, I was like looking into it. And then it sort of dawned on me what was happening. I was my insecurities were being sort of, used to market things at me. And I grew onto that quite quickly. But you mentioned something like Liver King now, where that's such a big story and that's come out. I mean, the majority of people, I assume, knew that, it wasn't just these ancestral tenets that he was on. But with something like that and someone so famous being exposed like that, that's got to do a lot of world of good for kids who were once in the situation I was in, right?
100%. And what's annoying here is Liver King is the perfect villain because of his ways. But at the same time, I'm the one that's put out more hit pieces on Liver King than anyone else. The problem is the fucking tenets of ancestral living are good. His story is good. Again, like Tate, when confronted, just come clean and be honest. And say, do you know what? For Liver King to be the most primal version, whatever, I'm on TRT. Cool. And then he could have said, I don't want to talk about it beyond that. But he lied. And then the lies build and build and build and build. But you know what? There are other things here that have kind of been overlooked. What about Chris Hemsworth? What about Thor? What about the people trying to look like Thor? And what about the fitness app that was sold for $200 million? Why are they not going for him? There is some double standards here, because if you're a Marvel fan, if you like the Avengers, if you're a big fan of that film, if you've got an emotional connection to these characters, this is happening everywhere. And why are so many people only having animosity towards Liver King when there are so many other people? What about The Rock? What about all of the things he's been, involved with for 25 fucking years? What about wrestling fans? What about anyone that watches WWE? What, so we're just supposed to punish Liver King? What about everyone else? How much has The Rock made in 25 years? So we've got things like that. Arnold Schwarzenegger was lucky because he got in and out. He became such a don that no one could even ask him that question. No one could even sit and go, hey, Arnie, you on steroids? You'd be like, get the fuck out. So like, if we're gonna punish some, we need to punish all. And then we need to look at the fitness industry, and we should actually uphold the honest people in a better light and say, look, this is a representation of that. So Steve Cook, I've asked people within his circle if he's juicy. And some people they're genuinely like, now he's natural, now he's natural, now he's natural. I'd say chances are he's maybe had a couple little cycles here and there. Definitely for his leg development, because his legs are fucking fantastic. Yeah. I'll give you that, right?
Yeah.
But I've actually been flirting with a few different kind of TV producers about a few years ago. Someone came and was like, oh, if we were to do like a show for like Netflix or something, what would you want to do? I would say, and the thing is, it's quite hard to do this ethically. I'm willing to do anabolic steroids at a bodybuilder dose for 12 weeks and document it. But then it's very difficult to get that paid off. If you're going to invest £500,000 into a TV series, people are like, oh, is this going to be able to harm James's health? Oh yeah, possibly. It's going to be shit for his blood pressure, his lipids, all of these things. But I would actually love to show people what can be done, and people would realize it looks like most people's fucking 12-week challenges that they do, these bodybuilders, these physique preps. And again, it's just one of those things where body power is a massive date in the diary for bodybuilders. I did Dubai Active a few months ago, and one side of it's like gym equipment, like smoothies, whatever. And when you go to the bodybuilding side, it's supplement companies that are blaring music so loud that it's like deafening. You have to hold your fingers in your ears. They're on stools opposite each other, seeing who can play music each other the loudest. You've got bodybuilders that have probably been looking forward to 6 months for that day. So even when it comes to you standing next to Steve Cook, how long did he prepare for? Months. How long did you prepare for? You probably brush your teeth in the morning and paper some gel in your hair. You know, everyone, imagine if I said to you, you're going to get 5,000 photos with someone over 3 days. And if you look good in those photos, people are going to buy your fucking clothes, they're going to buy your supplements, and they're going to buy your online training program. Over that's 5,000 prospects that you can sell into. I go, hey, Dubai Active isn't for another 8 months. How about we put you on a bit of testosterone? How about we put you on a bit of growth? How about we get you on, the sunbeds a little bit? Tell you what, let's, so let's imagine we do this, right? 8 months, you can go on and off maybe 2-3 times. Let's get you packing on a bit of muscle. And then you suddenly have an advert on your podcast going, hey guys, you might notice that I've put on a bit of size recently. Truth be told, I was doing a bro split. Now I've started doing this 4-day split that's just changed my life. And I've started taking a couple of supplements. If you want to know what the supplements are and the 4-day split, you can access it for only $12.99 a month. You know what I mean? So then suddenly when I'm dangling, imagine this, testosterone in many cases costs less than supplements. When I went on test before, my vial of testosterone cost less than my tub of protein.
Wow.
All right. So let that sink in for a sec. If I could get you to go on testosterone and do a few cycles and do exactly what I just spoke about, you could go full time with your podcast. You could quit your jobs. You could earn more money doing less, not having to leave the house. You could now leave the south of Wales, maybe go to Marbella, maybe get yourself a 4-bedroom house. How does a swimming pool sound? What do you need to do? Be dishonest with the people that buy into you as a brand. It's tempting, right?
Very, yeah.
Now, here's something from a moral standpoint. We all seem to think our morals are set in stone. Have you ever noticed that when you're on the motorway and you're speeding, if everyone else is speeding, it suddenly feels like it's completely fine. But if no one's speeding, it suddenly doesn't feel like the right thing to do. So I'm not saying Steve Cook's on steroids. I'm not saying anyone in that particular thing is, but if you're optimum nutrition and everyone else is doing this, speeding as the analogy, suddenly it doesn't seem like such a bad thing to do it yourself. Or maybe just a bit of Anavar here, maybe a bit of Winstrol, maybe a bit of deep bowl. Don't do deep bowl. It's not good for your insides when you're breaking it down. Use injectable. No, I'm joking. But yeah, you know what I mean? So like suddenly you're like, oh, I could just do a bit of this. I can make a lot more money. Like most months I go, do you know what? Sign up to my academy. I've got 3.5 million followers. I've only got 5,000 people doing the program. If I went on a bit of gear, right? Even if I put $20,000 to the side, what am I going to get with that? The best testosterone, the best doctors, the best blood works. There's a pathology lab just downstairs from where I live. For 20 grand, I could go on gear for a few months. I could bring out a new program and turn that into 200,000 or 2 million. It looms above me all the time. But then what? Do you know what? That's the most dangerous thing. Rather than misleading people and being a twat, then what? What do I do bigger? Do I do more? Do I get more of this? Or where do I go from there? Oh, it's going to slump the sales for the following 6 months if I end up coming down. Well, but James, your system was working so well for you in the first few weeks of Jan. What happened? So, yeah.
Yeah, it's scary. I've got one of my best friends is he's a model, and he's in unbelievable shape. Like if I stand next to him and I know he's clean, I stand next to him and I suddenly feel very shit about myself. Like he's just disciplined as fuck and he looks incredible. But we were talking and I was sort of brainstorming with him how to, kick his social media on and things. And he was talking to me about steroids, and just the way he was pitching it to me was that everyone else in the industry that he's going for is using the successful, and he felt like by not doing it, he's just falling behind everyone else. And it is that analogy you gave then, if like everyone else is speeding, then it's fine if I speed too.
Yeah, and imagine this: the chances of him being a successful bodybuilder are slim to none without anabolic steroids.
Yeah.
Slim to none.
Yeah.
The same goes in most professional sports as well. If you want to be a top level athlete, imagine this: you're 25 and you didn't make it. Versus, oh, what if I took steroids? What if I'd done more training? What if I'd done this? What if I'd taken a gamble? These are the things that haunt people. And even at the top level, there's definitely steroids going on everywhere. But again, the sad thing here is, let's say he does take steroids and he does make it to a high level bodybuilder. Out of the amount of people that would self-classify as bodybuilders, how many of them have experienced success? Because even, in some respects, like there's definitely a survivorship bias here, right? Have you seen the famous example of the survivorship bias where planes came back from World War One and they looked at where the holes were from being shot with the bullets in the wings, and they said, we need to armor up where the bullet holes are because this is where planes are being shot. And I can't remember the name of the chap, but he said, no, that's not where we need to put armor. We need to put armor where fucking planes didn't come home. He goes, if there are holes in the wings and the bird made it home, then that's fine. What we need to do is armor the places that there are no bullet holes in, because they are the places that got shot. So, again, I say this when I do my business talks. I say to personal trainers in the room, I'm speaking from a position of survivorship bias. Maybe I don't have a fucking clue how to run a business, but I was the one person that made it. Do you remember Darren Brown, the magician?
Yeah.
Did you ever see his way of predicting the horse race?
I don't think I saw the horse race. No.
So he had this system where he was like, right, he brought this girl on, and for 7 or 8 horse races in a row, he had predicted for her who was going to win. She got a random text from him, and Darren Brown said, bet on this horse today. So she bet on it. It won. Next horse race, bet on it. It won. So after like 6 horse races or whatever, he goes, I need you to get all of the savings you can and bring them together and bet on this horse. So she does it. After she's done the bet, he goes, do you want to know what the system is? She goes, what? He goes, I messaged 7,000 people. After the first horse race, which was a 7-horse race, 6,000 people lost their money. So there was 1,000 of you left. The next horse race, it was a 5-horse race. I told all of you to do different things. There was 200 of you left. After the next horse race, there was 20 of you left. After that horse race, there was blah, blah, blah. He goes, you are a statistical anomaly
Yeah.
of what's left. So she goes, there's no system. He goes, no, there's no system. And I was like, whoa. I was like, that's a crazy way to see it, right? So that could be me. I could be the girl left with the horse racing ticket just at the end. Everyone else could have died out on the way. So there definitely is like a survivorship bias with it. But like even then, as a bodybuilder, it's not congruent. My vocabulary's got better since we last spoke, with a good life, right? So weighing up your protein, not being sociable, training in the gym for 2 hours a day, tensing, going through these cyclical bouts of, because we gain weight and we lose weight, most people throughout the year pretty normally. But then when you've got to fit that in with calendars of fitness shows, that doesn't come natural. Oh, I'm good. For most of us, it's like, get your shit together, get on a bit of weight, whatever it is. But then suddenly you've got a hyper-obsessed, self-obsessed, narcissistic in some respects, body confidence, fearful person that is more obsessed with the way they look than the way they live. That's probably the best way you could do it. Having an obsession with how you look that trumps how you live is a recipe for a shit time. And even if your friend, what's his name?
Well, I'm not going to out him, but let's call him Mike.
Mike. Let's say Mike, right? Say he does become a fucking Wales bodybuilding champion.
Yeah.
How much does that pay?
Pennies,
couple hundred
maybe.
quid.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mate, you can't even get a fucking EasyJet flight to Lisbon for that.
No.
You know what I mean? We're 12 weeks, right? Even let's look at it your way. 12 weeks doing a podcast, 2 a week. You could have 24 podcasts that you're putting out. Or you could just be hungry for that duration of time, step on stage to appease a load of other fucking narcissists and fake time and afford a one-way EasyJet flight to or Ryanair to go to Lisbon.
Just before we start to wrap up, just on this subject of, the way you look and insecurities I'm a big fan of your newsletter. And I will link it below if anyone's interested. And the one newsletter that you wrote, it must have been a good few months ago now, that I referenced the most is when you wrote an email about Bruce Willis's hairline. And I sort of reference this all the time, that he was once regarded as one of the best looking men on the planet, but, you know, he didn't have his hairline wasn't, you know, front and center, far from it. And, you know, my younger brother, he's a teenager now. He's like 16 years old. I remember he was 16 years old, and I went home to visit my parents, and I saw my brother looking in the mirror, and I was like, what are you doing? He said, I'm checking my hairline. He's a 16-year-old kid. And I'm like, shit, is this where we've come to now with, you know, social media and kids being taught, you know, what they need to look like? And I even hear him when, you know, when he's on Xbox to, you know, on people online, like the insults seem to be about like shit like hairlines and things like that. It really perplexes me. Where do you think this has come from, and what do you think sort of the remedy for this is, or do you think it's just going to get worse and worse and worse?
Men are trying to impress other men, and this has always happened, right? Let's say we're hunter gatherers. I'd have a bigger stick than you, and I'd be from a different tribe. You go, that's a fucking good stick. You'd wait until you get back to your tribe and go, do you see the size of James's stick? And then I'd be like, come round mine to my cave. Why? Because my cave's the big cave. You know, like, so men have been in this, you know, Jordan Peterson dominance hierarchy, whatever. So men like to tear other men down as much. Your mate bodybuilding, Mike, he's doing that to impress other dudes. The judging panel at that competition are other men, not women. Most women in his life go, that's too much, right? So we're trying to please the other men. So then suddenly it's like a battle of the hairline. Do you remember a film called The Rock with Nicolas Cage?
Yeah.
Right, let me find this, because Nicholas, sorry to make sure you clip this as well, because this is this is going to be a good segment for YouTube, right? His hair in that film is like, he's receding. A line of rabbits running backwards, a receding hairline. He has like a wisp of hair. Let me try and find a better one. And his comb over is non-existent.
Yeah.
So I'm going to put it here. I'm really going to try and get that into that. It's like Homer Simpson's hair, The Rock.
Yeah.
But no one gave a fuck back then. What's that? 1997, I think. 1996. Because he saved fucking San Francisco from this military fucking bunch of people that were trying to melt everyone's faces off with rockets. Yeah. So it didn't matter. Bruce Willis in like the first Die Hard film, it didn't matter, because masculinity was about knowing how to use a machine gun and saving the fucking world. And now masculinity's changed to the point that you've got to have a shaved chest. You've got to have a perfect hairline. And for me, one thing is we all get to be the gatekeepers of what we judge to be masculinity. And it depends on our values. For me, being a man is about, one, being able to provide. And that's when I say I want to provide, a lot of women will construe that as, you know, I don't think my partner is capable. None of that. No, I like to buy dinner, even if it's for my friends, my family, whatever it is. I like the fact that I gave my parents an Amex to my bank account. So if they ever need to buy anything, they can do it, right? That makes me feel like a man. On top of that, I love jiu-jitsu, where I love that I could probably submit 90% of the world's men in a street fight, right? I like that. And I could do it without hurting them. If someone tried to lamp me in the street, I've got a high chance, and I know some boxers are like, no, BJJ doesn't work in the streets. That's why I said 90%. I got a high chance I'd get them to the floor and choke them out and put them unconscious. Say to someone call the police, there's an unconscious guy in an alleyway. That makes me feel like a man. My hair is not something I hold to the standard of being a man. I've been getting banter. I've got a baseball cap on, I'll take it off. I've been getting banter now about going bald. I've got really fine hair. You know, I do. I probably am receding. I'm 33. And guess what? If I am or if I wasn't, it doesn't change my life. It doesn't change my day-to-day life. And I get comments on TikTok as well. Just shave it off. Like, what is the problem here? Even if I do recede, even if I do go thin on top or more thin on top, why is that a problem? And again, we spoke before about people that actually honestly care. If my missus said to me, I think you should shave your head, I'd probably consider it, because she's the one person that my attraction really is important to.
Yeah.
Outside of that, I don't think anyone's got a standpoint on it. Now, there are so many men out there that have probably saved a few £1,000s. They could have got themselves a DSLR camera and a podcast set and gone after their dream. Instead, they're flying to fucking Turkey to have an operation on their head. You know what I mean? So it's fucking crazy that people will park their passion, or they'll park a project that they want to work on for the sense of just wanting to please other men. There are guys out there that are in perfectly good shape, or that have perfectly good teeth. And now I speak as someone who double standards here. At 22, I'm the person I take the piss out of is someone who I was when I was younger. I used to have the Gold's Gym vest. I used to take steroids. I used to, take pre-workout. I used to try and get Tom Hardy traps from the film Warrior. I was that guy, right? I'm that guy. I'm now the person I wish was there when I was younger. And I had crooked teeth. So I went to the dentist. I said, I've got crooked teeth. I probably had the same kind of teeth as Tom Hardy and overcrowding at the front. No one ever really had a problem with it. My rugby teammates used to give me banter about it. Used to call me Snaffletooth. And so with my hard-earned money, what did I do? Went to the dentist. He said, you can have braces. I said, I don't want braces. So instead, I had my 2 front teeth taken out at 22 and I had a bridge put in. So a 6-plate bridge over the front. So within 2 weeks, because guess what? Young men are impatient. Fucking impatient, right? That's why they don't want to build muscle naturally. They'd rather do it with steroids. So at that point, I've had the teeth put in. So then a few years ago, I've chipped them from playing rugby or whatever. I ended up having the whole lot redone. So I had veneers. I didn't go to Turkey. I had them done in London. So when I say to people, my teeth were fucked and I don't have 2 front teeth, I got veneers to cover up the fact that I was an idiot when I was younger. But you must have seen it on TikTok where guys with perfectly good teeth are now getting these crowns from veneer, where all of these ones in Turkey where they're all the same. People don't even appreciate the idiosyncratic differences, got you again there, between us that make us unique. And it makes me sad now that all men are trying to have the same hairline and the same set of teeth.
Yeah.
Where for so many people, I think that little imperfection that they had is something that they should have cherished and upheld a little bit more. And when I think of Bruce Willis, when I think of Nicolas Cage, the fact they were receding was part of their idiosyncrasies that they had, was part of who they were. And can you imagine if Bruce Willis had a fucking hair transplant? And even Andrew Tate, again, he was clutching hold of it for a while, shaved his head. You can't really, now he looks weird when he's got hair. Joe Rogan, same again. Some of the biggest dons, again, The Rock, Bruce Willis, Jason Statham, Andrew Tate, Joe Rogan, they just shaved their head. And do you think they give a fuck? Your brother, you should look at him and go, you're probably paranoid. You could have spent that 5 minutes better. If you ever get to the point where you go, I haven't got enough hair to have a hairstyle, then shave it off. And I don't know many men that shaved their head and regretted it.
No.
Because they have been. I shaved my head when I was 19. I did it for 4 bottles of Carlsberg. And I wouldn't recommend it. But yeah, mate, it's crazy world we live in, isn't it? We've got so many genuine things we could do with our attention span and our life, and we spend it worrying about how many follicles are fucking doing their job in our head.
Yeah. Yet Jordan Peterson is the bad guy, right?
Mate, he's got a killer hairline. He's got a very strong hairline for his age. And it's completely out of our fucking control as well. And also, that's the fucking, pretty much. Jordan Peterson's a G. I love him. And do you know what? Don't agree with everything he says.
Same.
But I do agree with most of it.
Yeah. He's the elusive Peterson for me. I've spoken to his wife. I've spoken to his son. I've actually spoken to him on the call while he was setting up the call for his wife, but still not managed to get him yet. But one day. Have you ever met Jordan Peterson?
Nah, I've done some maybe 3 of my touring events from the last tour. He was in the building the night before us.
Oh, no way.
And in case you ever see a picture of like me on stage with a big crowd, just know that Jordan Peterson was there 2 nights before, selling out for 2 nights with a bigger crowd.
Love it, man. Well, I really appreciate, I'm conscious of our time because I forgot that Australia was a day ahead of us. So we started a little bit late. Before I let you go, it's just a question that I ask everyone, and it'd be an interesting one for you because you've lived the corporate life. You've lived the sort of the vagabonding life. For James Smith, what makes a life worth living?
Do you know what? It's a very good question. I don't think I've given that enough thought. I'll probably lean on my distinction between happiness and pleasure. If I was to look at some of the things that I've done for pleasure, I've bought a Rolex that I don't wear. got an AP that I put on just so that it feels like it's got its value in money. But when I look at things that genuinely like make me happy, it's not those things. I got a 5-year-old car that I love, 5-year-old Golf R, because it reminds me of the car that I had when I was a PT, getting up at doing my 5:30 a.m. client. I got I rent an apartment that's got a view of Sydney Harbour Bridge and Opera House where I see the sunset in the evenings. I got a dog, and I've got a job that doesn't stress me out or fatigue me too much. So like when I look at my life, there are definitely things that I bought with pleasure, but I can distinctively know what those things are. And I know that they're stupid uses of money and that it will bring me pleasure for a short period of time, like a watch that I don't wear. But then I know the things that bring me happiness. And like even getting a dog is the craziest one because I get woken up early. I now, after this call, right, people think I live a luxury life. I'm going to pick up dog shit, then I'm going to get the mop out because my dog hates the mop. He's a puppy. Having a puppy-free mop session on the balcony is going to be the highlight of my fucking day. Then I'm going to take my car to the car wash because I haven't been able to get it washed in so fucking long because of the dog. Then I'm going to mop the inside of the kitchen because I just want to, and my dog hates the Hoover as well. So everyone out there probably thinks that I'm out living this lavish life, flashing my MX, eating in the best restaurants. I can't wait to have my Dyson Hoover out and clean my rented apartment for a bit of peace before the dog comes back later. But to me, that's happiness. The sacrifice. Yesterday, I'm crazy on Amazon buying shit for my dog at the moment. I bought him like a 30-meter lead. So my biggest fear is that he won't come back when I call his name. I took him to a fuck off big park. I let him run off. I called his name and he came back to me. I shit you not. It's probably my happiest moment in the last 3 months. That to me was fucking better than the Opera House, mate. Like the fact my dog came back to me after all these early mornings and all this, and like all of this stressful time, the craziest thing, right? No one can take that away from me. People can argue with that, but they can't take it away from me. So if people, to answer your question a bit more directly, think about what you want that will make you happy. Also think about what you want that will bring you pleasure. But if you can distinguish the two, I know that if I ever feel like I'm not happy enough in life, I need to ignore the pleasure and go after the things that make you happy. And if people can do that and they can argue to the fucking last breath they have for it, then no one can take that away from them. So yeah, if you can distinguish those two things, then yeah, you can find happiness.
Man, that was fucking awesome. I love it. Well, thank you so much for coming on today, man. I know I did try to reach out to Luke when How to Be Confident was coming out, but I think you were on Bartlett, Piers Morgan, all these big ones at the time. But glad we managed to finally get it done. I really appreciate you. One of my favorite people to follow online, and thank you so much for coming on again. It's really a pleasure.
Well, you've got a great interview style because you let me talk a lot. So let's do these more often. And if you want to arrange another one, just email me direct. Luke spends the majority of his day telling people to fuck off. So
I can imagine.
You can sometimes get the.
I've met many a gatekeeper in my time. He's a good one.
Perfect. Well, mate, I look forward to speaking to you again soon. Let's not leave it another 3 years.